Tony Kuchma. I work for the Oneida Nation as the Wetland Program Coordinator. Part of that job involves working with and controlling invasive species, in particular plants. So I know we're really crunched for time. I'm going to just give a brief overview of the program, and I'm probably going to vary from my notes. That's all I have is notes. I don't have a presentation. So let me just get into it. In general, our management plan is based on early detection of invasive species and rapid response to controlling those species that we're detecting. And around here, around Green Bay, one of the Phragmites australis, if you see that really tall grass that's growing in the ditches around here, that's one of the main species that we're controlling, and that's one that where you're detecting and responding rapidly is very much a key to controlling that species, as well as other ones, but that one in particular, really got to get on top of it. So then the focus of our invasive species program is really on the 25 miles of public trails that are within the reservation. That's because those are vectors for moving seed and plant material. So if we can keep the trail system clear of invasives, then we have a better chance of containing the spread. And then we also have 10 tribal natural areas that are really the focus of our monitoring efforts and our control efforts. Just a little bit of history. The invasive species program that Oneida has, as we know it today, really started around 2003 with an EPA grant that was focused on purple loosestrife. Purple loosestrife was really big back then. It's still big today, but back then that was the invasive species that everybody was targeting. And so with that grant, we raised Gallirucella beetles. That was the main component of that grant, and released them as a biological control, and it was really successful. Thankfully, purple loosestrife really isn't taken off around the Green Bay area in Oneida the way it has, say, up in Bad River. So we've been lucky that way. And in the beetle release sites, we go back and do the monitoring. We've really seen a good amount of success with that, so we don't have to go out and do much chemical control. And we really haven't seen the beetles going off into some of the native species that are related to purple loosestrife. They don't seem to be affected at all. So that was a success. Moving forward through time, we also have worked through grants and monies from the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council, WCAC. We did a study back in 2008 looking at the cost per acre and the effectiveness of controlling Phragmites, again, and garlic mustard. So we were able to arrive at that, and that body of work, that study, then is being used to influence an NRCS standard, and we can apply that to tribal lands to get cost sharing for controlling invasive species on tribal lands. Let's see, so I know we're really crunched for time here, so I'm just going to skip over some of these things. A big component, again, of our program is outreach. So one thing we did this year that we're pretty proud of is that we constructed 13 boot brush stands where you can come and get your boots clean of dirt and soil that that you may have picked up as you're walking on our trail system. And the neat thing about it is when you're cleaning your boots off, there's an informative sign. So, and you have to hold on to that sign when you're cleaning your boots. And so you're kind of a captive audience. It's right there in front of you, and you're almost forced to read it. And so it tells you why it's there, what we're trying to do, and how you can help by keeping your boots clean. So that was kind of a really neat thing that we did this year. And that, again, that was through a WCAC funding that we received. WCAC actually got the funding through GLRI, Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which I'm sure most people in the room that are doing natural resources work have probably received some of that funding to fund some components of your natural resource programs. Again, another big part of what we do is habitat restoration and non-point pollution prevention. Those are separate programs, but they complement each other. So, in Oneida, we have 65,432 acres within the reservation. And of that, 65% of the land use is agriculture. So, we have a very disturbed landscape around here. Invasive species love disturbance. So, there's no shortage of work in controlling invasive species because of that situation. So our non-point program, non-point pollution prevention program, where we can control agricultural runoff, is really a key to reducing invasive species. If you have clean water, you're going to favor the native species. Less erosion and clean water, it favors native species, as well as our habitat restoration too. Maybe we're going into some of these marginal farm fields and reestablishing native habitat, be it forest or native grassland. And by doing that too, you're not just letting a field go fallow and encouraging invasive non-native plants to move in. You're going in and you're planting a native prairie species, for instance, or medicinal plants. I know, like someone was mentioning that you talked a little bit about using native seed mixes along highway projects. That's really become a big thing for us. And it's another public outreach effort as well. So in Oneida, bergamot or Monarda fistulosa, in Oneida it's also referred to as number 6. Very popular medicinal plant. So we always include bergamot in our native mixes. However, one thing with maybe considering some of these native medicinals in the seed mixes along highways, there is a perception and probably somewhat of a reality too, if we were to look into it, that gathering medicinals along a highway right away or along a railroad right away, they're going to be contaminated. And I don't have any data on that, but that is the perception. I would imagine you're going to find some heavy metals like cadmium, nickel. Levels might be a little bit higher, or not. I don't know, but that's a perception. So I don't know if anyone in this room was part of that discussion. I wasn't, but it was mentioned to me. So I'd just like to throw that out. And then I guess just one last thing, just to talk about our program. We do work with other agencies. We have worked with the DOT. I believe it's the Chapter 40, the invasive species laws, where myself and at the time AmeriCorps Vista volunteers sat in on the panel that rated how invasive some of the aquatic invasive species were or are, and that became part of the NR40, the law of restricted or prohibited plants that can be transported or not in Wisconsin. So we do work with other agencies to help establish law. So I think with that, I know I'm just rapidly going over a lot of things here. I don't know if we're going to do questions after each.
We'll do that at the very end.
At the end? Okay. Yeah. So we can do that at the end, and I know we're pressed for time, so I think, I'm not sure who's up next. Gretchen? Right. Okay. So we'll turn over to Gretchen.